So I was thinking more about space and what would be important to share about Whitehead's view of space or space-time. Because, Whitehead was pushed into philosophy because of Einstein's theory of relativity. It's said that Whitehead was one of the few mathematicians in Britain who could understand Einstein's theory of general relativity in 1916. And that Whitehead had issues with it. I mean, he accepted the physics and questioned only the implicit metaphysics. Because Einstein, while he was relativizing space and time, he was relativizing them to in relationship to material bodies or to mass. And Whitehead's ontology is not made of warped space-time warped due to mass, right? Whitehead's ontology is made of events, so that rather than space and time being the result of a relationship among material bodies, in Whitehead, space and time become the result of a relationship among events. And events are what is concrete in the sense of being actually experienced, whereas space and time are abstractions from experience, are abstractions from events. Space and time result from the way that events come into relationship with one another. So space and time are like the field of potential that holds events in tension with one another. Because there is one event, right? The universe. But what is the universe but many events, each superseding one another? The universe is a network of events, right? And we can talk about the network as itself an event, but whenever we entify the universe like that and say that it is the supreme event, we can't forget that, at least for Whitehead, even the supreme event is subject to creativity, and creativity is a process whereby the many become one and are increased by one. This is how Whitehead describes what the process of creativity is, or what concrescence is. The many become one and are increased by one. So the universe is one, but it's one in each of the many that makes it up, just as much as it is one as a totality of the many. And every time, if it's not just an abstraction, when we refer to the totality, we're talking about another actual occasion of experience. And that occasion of experience arises and perishes. So there may indeed be a cosmic psyche, right? A world soul that unifies all individual finite souls within it. But even that world soul then would be, in Whitehead's terms, a society of actual occasions. In other words, it would be subject to the principle of unrest, of creativity, that the nature of experience is to arise and perish, to emerge out of a soil of objects, which are perished subjects, right? Each actual occasion of experience arises out of a soil of objects, unifies into a new moment of subjectivity, and then perishes as a superject, right? Expressing its aim and its purpose and its value, expressing it or insisting upon it so that it will be inherited by the future with and taken as important, right? The past insists itself. Causality, then, for Whitehead, is a form of ancestral memory, right? And what we experience at the human level as family systems and as a result of events in our childhood, and it's the psychological version of causality, and it operates in the physical world as a form of memory just as much. So memory is not something the brain does magically. Memory is something that is present in rocks, and in rocks as mountains, right? When you look at a geological formation and you consider it in the context of deep history or deep time, you can see how time itself is etched in the scars of the rock faces, right? And so you're seeing a sort of memory and a sort of inscription system in just the rocks and the weathering process. It's a signature of time. And so for Whitehead, when we're trying to understand the nature of space, we're thinking about it as more as a place that we inhabit, and that just as we inhabit our environments, we're either enhancing or derogating, right? We're either improving or destroying the environments that we inhabit. There's no neutral relationship to one's environment if you're a living organism. And so space for Whitehead is the most general kind of environment that we notice in our cosmos, right? And he thinks that the structure of space and space-time is provided by what he calls the electromagnetic society of actual occasions that are sort of, those are the most basic entities. It's the most basic system of entities or network of events that seems to exist in our universe that we can detect with our instruments. It's electromagnetism, right? Light. And Whitehead thinks that this is the most general field of relationships or spatial habitat that provides us our context of experience. And that experience of space is not as space as like pre-given and external to us. It's very important that space is not something that Whitehead thought was separate from our experience, that we're inside of. Space is brought forth by our experience, and I do mean our. I don't mean individual organisms bring forth space by themselves. We bring forth space through our social relationships, through the networks that we form, the bonds of feeling that we form. I mean, this is one way that Whitehead himself will talk about the nature of space as a tissue of feelings, that space is woven out of these bonds of feeling, out of emotional vectors and vortexes. That space is, if you want to imagine pure space for Whitehead, it would be akin to imagining pure transition or pure transmission, right? Just pure activity. And this is what quantum theory was revealing, right? Whitehead wasn't only responding to Einstein, he was responding to quantum theory, where there's a quantum vacuum, right? And that the vacuum, or the seemingly most empty thing, is in fact a plenum. It is full of basically infinite potential. So Whitehead's aware of this, and his understanding of space is as that sort of creative plenum. But the space of our experience is not just a pure creative plenum, because this space has a history. It's bound up in time, and time is a process of accumulation or accretion, right? Where every event that occurs in history is unique. It's never happened quite like that before. Each new actual occasion of experience is the universe recreating itself as one, right? In a new way. So this is the understanding of space that Whitehead's trying to share with us.